You think your biggest regrets are the mistakes you made. They're not. Psychologists have found that people's deepest, longest-lasting regrets aren't things they did and got wrong. They're things they never did at all, and the reason your brain ranks them that way isn't emotional. It's mathematical. Here's the strange part. In the moment, doing something and having it fail hurts more than not trying at all. But give it time, months, years, decades, and that ranking flips completely. The mistake fades. The thing you never did grows. Today, I'll show you the research behind this reversal, the actual mechanism your brain uses to inflate what never happened, and how to use this knowledge before it becomes a regret instead of after. Part 1. The regret that grows. In the 1990s, psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Victoria Medvec asked hundreds of people to describe their biggest regrets, then studied how those regrets changed with distance from the event. Short-term, people regretted their actions more, a bad decision, an embarrassing mistake, something said that shouldn't have been. But long-term, the pattern reversed almost entirely. The regrets people carried for years, the ones mentioned on deathbeds, in later life interviews, in decades-old memories, were overwhelmingly regrets of inaction. The job never applied for. The person never told. The trip never taken. Roughly 75% of long-term regrets fall into this category. Not mistakes. Absences. Part 2. Why action regret shrinks. When you do something and it goes wrong, your brain has a full set of facts to work with. You know exactly what happened, why it happened, and often, how you could have done it differently. This is called the psychological immune system, and it's remarkably effective. Your mind builds a story around action regret quickly. I learned from that. It wasn't that bad. I grew from it. Because there's real information available to build the story from. Facts are limiting. They cap how bad something can become in your memory, because reality keeps correcting the story. Part 3. Why inaction regret grows without limit. Here's where it gets interesting. When you don't do something, there are no facts. No outcome to anchor the memory. No ceiling on how good it might have been. Psychologists call this the absence of a boundary condition. Your brain, without real information to work with, fills the gap with imagination, and imagination has no upper limit. The job you didn't apply for doesn't just become a missed opportunity. Over time, it becomes the career that would have changed everything. The person you didn't approach doesn't just become someone you didn't date. They become the relationship that would have defined your life. None of this is measured against reality, because there's no reality to measure it against. It's measured against your imagination, and imagination always wins. Part 4. The compounding nature of inaction. There's a second reason inaction regret gets worse with time, and it's almost cruel. Action regret is usually a single event. It happened, it's over, it recedes. Inaction regret often stays available. You can still theoretically apply for a similar job. You could still theoretically reach out. This means the door doesn't fully close, so your brain keeps returning to it, replaying the option that's technically still open but that you keep declining to take, which reinforces the regret every time you pass it by again. Part 5. Using this before it becomes permanent. Here's the practical part. Since your brain already knows this asymmetry exists on some level, you can use it deliberately instead of discovering it too late. When facing a decision where the downside is a bad outcome, but the alternative is doing nothing, weigh them correctly. A bad outcome from action shrinks over time. A missed opportunity from inaction grows. This means the math is rarely as close as it feels in the moment. Practical technique. Before declining to try something out of fear of failure, ask specifically, will I still be thinking about this in 10 years if I don't do it? If the honest answer is yes, that's not caution talking. That's the regret already forming in advance. Here's the truth. Your brain isn't wired to accurately measure the danger of trying and failing. It's wired to remember trying and failing as smaller than it actually was, and to remember not trying as bigger than it actually would have been. The imbalance isn't a flaw in your character. It's a flaw in how memory handles the presence or absence of facts. You don't need to eliminate fear of failure to make better decisions. You need to remember that failure comes with an expiration date, and the thing you never did doesn't. The next time you're standing at the edge of trying something and talking yourself out of it, ask what that decision will look like in 10 years, not tomorrow. If this changed how you think about regret, share it with someone who's been putting something off for far too long, and subscribe for more science-based thinking, learning, and mental growth.